Yes, we are live now.
Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another live with us at Cornash, the Lifestyle Management School. Today is most certainly a very, very important one. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day, and I've got with me five very pertinent speakers who will be sharing their opinion on this topic, who will be giving us a perspective which would definitely throw light on the topic. The suicide ideation or death by suicide is never a comfortable one. It's a very personal tragedy which a lot of people go through, yet we are not making this a part of our regular conversation. So this live aims at creating this awareness where we start making this a part of our conversation. When we see our loved ones, when we meet friends, family, sometimes we see that they are not feeling or they're not looking all right. Something seems to be off. Yet we are so uncomfortable talking about such things that how are you really feeling? What's going on with you? You are looking a little put off these days. It's been a while. What's going on? This simple inquiry also makes us extremely uncomfortable. So today we will be bisecting and dissecting this whole topic, this whole issue. We'll say ladies first, but we'll do a role reversal here. I have with me one gentleman, someone who's very dear to me. I really love this boy. He is such a sensitive person. I'm sorry, I'm introducing him this way. People who know me know that I'm not a very formal person. But okay, he is, let me be a little more serious on this. He's Shunandan Sinha. He is based out of Kolkata, and he works in the compliance. He's a compliance professional in a global IT organization. He's been working for more than 17 years now, and has worked in various industries and various sectors. Okay, so over to you, Shunandan. Tell us about how difficult is it for a man or a boy to talk about mental health, or even simply how they're feeling.
Thank you, Devlinadi. Thank you so much for having me on this forum. I think the topic is not just pertinent, but very much clear and present for all of us. And it cuts across all the genders and impacts every individual. I don't claim to be the representative of the entire male species across the globe, but more from a man's perspective, an individual perspective, what I'll share is that I think suicide and mental health, while they go hand in hand, it's a topic that all of us and many of us are very hesitant and find it difficult to talk about, because even before we can reach out to somebody else, I think our own inner conversations are difficult. Because to identify where we are getting affected from, what is actually triggering some kind of a downtime in our overall mental makeup. I mean, you see somebody who is a happy-go-lucky, the smiling facade all the time, but then the other day, are we really observant enough to figure out that person is not really smiling that much? And these probably symptoms and things can cut across all genders. From a man's perspective, I mean, ever since I kind of have started thinking about this topic, while I can say that I do not have any personal stories where I have had a very up close and personal experience of this, but many have in this world. What I feel as a man is that perhaps there is this innate societal conditioning that we all have as a man, where A, will find it difficult to show our vulnerable side to anybody. Perhaps it's that weight on our shoulders that we need to appear strong. The word macho comes into play. And we carry the weight of the world. All of us are atlases of the world. And any weakness, any vulnerability is probably a threat of an attack. And we will be, probably pegged down in our societal ladder. And I'm not saying that's every man's thought process, but many, yeah. Because when we talk about any kind of, let's say, illness, whether we have a sneeze, a viral, any bug, we don't have any problem talking about it to anybody. And that again applies to all of us. But the moment it's something to do where we are feeling down, a friend asks, hey, what's up? Are you okay? How often do we answer, yes, things are not okay? Most of us say, nah, it's okay. This too shall pass. Whether we are talking to a mental health professional, or whether we are even planning to, considering to go over and talk, that's I think, a Herculean task to process, let alone share it with somebody else. How many times do we say, hey, you've got a sneeze, you better see a doctor. Oh, do you have COVID? Did you see a doctor? Somebody who is going through something, how many times do we, to our friends and family, say, I think you should see an expert or a mental health expert? How many times? So from a man's perspective, I think it's difficult from the conditioning that we all have. And I don't think it's a conditioning that we can't get out of, only if the stigma, the taboo kind of reduces. Now, it differs from society to society. Maybe the Western world might be a few notches ahead of our Indian society, but there is stigma nonetheless. And I think conversations like this, the more we drill into the reasons, and the more we create that safe space for a person to talk about his or her own feelings. And if I find a safe space where I know that I'll not be judged, I'll actually receive help, I'm sure this conditioning can be broken. So I'll take a pause at this point, and I don't want to, go over the time. So back to you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your perspective. It's a very, very important topic, and it's a very important point that you have picked up, that at least start talking about it. The more we talk about this, probably the more we're going to be open about it, and the tension which builds up when we are talking about such issues will reduce gradually. So let's be optimistic about it. My next speaker for today is Devipriya Guha. As she is the program coordinator of Nognat Foundation. She spearheads it. She looks into the working details. She works with the grassroots level. She is someone who goes into the habitat of the marginalized sections of the society. And she has had a lot of first-hand experiences when it comes to people, young and old, who have had suicide ideation or have had death by suicide. So Devipriya, I would like you to share this perspective that it is not strata specific.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So I would like to start with a bit of data. So according to the NCRB reports, the recent reports, it is not specific to any strata, but the reason for suicides in India, the major reasons are abuse, alcoholism, addiction, chronic diseases, family illnesses from terminal illnesses, feeling of loneliness, financial losses, mental illnesses, professional issues. So these are not strata specific. Now I would like to get into a bit of details from these things. One major cause of suicide attempts, I would say, that I see among the children that we work with, or the youth that we work with rather, these are all between, say, around 8 years to about 20 years. In this bracket, which we see very commonly, and this is not specific to urban slums, this is also for rural belts that we work in, we see that these children are exposed to social media. They are exposed to a life which is beyond their means. So this is a huge cause of concern, and this is a huge pressure that they face. And this is one major common thing that we see. The second thing is financial problems. It's a very common sight that either, so now I'm going a little case specific. Just last week, we had a suicide case that we had to handle where this particular gentleman, he was terminally ill. He was getting his treatments done for the last 2 years, but the family couldn't bear the costs any further, and he committed suicide. He hung himself. Though he was just in stage 2 of cancer, he could have recovered, most likely, but the family and him, they couldn't keep the pressure on. So this is one particular case. Another thing that we very commonly see is social isolation. So these individuals, they have, so the caste system here in India is very strong. And especially in the lower communities, they're still holding on to their roots. And that is a major cause of social isolation. And that leads to a lot of suicides or suicide attempts. I'm again and again saying suicide attempts because, again, we have to keep in mind that they do not have the luxury of a lot of space. So the attempts are taken, but everything has its pros and cons. Luckily, they are detected much earlier and it's handled easier. So the attempts are much higher than the success rates among the community people. So this is an overall view of how we see suicide cases on a regular basis. What we are, as an organization, trying to do with the help of Cornash is we have created a mental health cell, and here counselors, they come in and talk to them, and even just to hear it out is a big relief for them. Not that they're looking for a solution, but they're looking for a place to vent out. And here, Cornash has been phenomenal. They've come in and actually done. So if we actually go into, again, data, there are over 1,000 cases that has already been counseled by, or rather ongoing cases with Cornash from the community.
Thank you so much for throwing light on this matter, Devipriya. So we can say that this suicide ideation or death by suicide is not socioeconomic strata specific. And like we are talking through social media, I would urge all kinds of mental health professionals to make attempts so that we can all do our bit and reach out to the marginalized section where help is certainly not available easily. So with this, I would like to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is a colleague of mine. We have known each other for 18 years now. She started off as someone, as a student of psychology at a much later age with 2 little children, and comes from a complete different background. But how things can be turned around from there, that keen interest in the subject psychology made her go up to Harvard. So this is my colleague, Pragatisureka, who will be talking about individuals she sees as a clinical psychologist.
Thank you, Devlina. That was a wonderful introduction. And it wouldn't have been possible without you, without Sanchita, and everybody else at Cornash. You know, I think you all have been an integral part of my journey. One of the things that I see in my profession as a clinical psychologist is that, people are obsessed with death. When somebody is suicidal, what family members need to really watch out for Is the person talking a lot about death? Is it that a person has started getting things, like, of course, guns we can't have in our country, but, little things. Has the person started getting things like maybe sleeping pills, too much of it, ropes or other things, and is the person very isolated? Is the person spending a lot of time just by himself or herself? Activities that a person used to enjoy, the person doesn't seem to have any interest in. And more importantly, there's just a glum feeling or very listless, or sometimes there's something about the person that, instinctively you feel that something is amiss. We all get that feeling that something is not right. So these are some of the things that really point out that perhaps help with a professional is needed. Because a lot of times, you will see that people are very stressed out now, balancing work, balancing relationships, and loved ones, they mean well, friends, they mean well. They say, oh, it's no big deal. Everyone is going through it, or there could be a child who's transitioning from school to college, or a child who's transitioning from one class to the other, even in college. So sometimes, people really grumble, especially young adults is something that I see. But most people have a habit of saying, oh, it's no big deal, it's just going to normalize. So if somebody is constantly voicing a concern and doesn't look his or her usual self, that definitely is a time where you need to explore that what's really happening with this person. Or the person says, no big deal, there is no interest in anything. Now, when it comes to even much older people, this is something to really, really watch out for. People take it as normal that, okay, as people get older, it's something which is happening, or somebody who's constantly complaining. So these are some of the signs to watch out for. Usually, if there is talk of death for more than 2 weeks, and it's not that by one side we say that, that's an existential truth and we need to know about it. But, someone who's philosophical about death won't look glum, won't look listless, would not look as though doomsday is coming, won't look defeated by life. So I think when we talk about suicide prevention, this is one of the very crucial factors when it comes to individuals. Is someone really saying things like that? Or sometimes people say things like, oh, I'm going to smoke up too much. I don't care. I'm going to die in any case. Or, life is too small. Let me do exactly what I want. That false bonhomie also sometimes shows a lot of sadness. So these are some of the signs that I have seen that usually point out. And one more thing, if somebody says, I want to commit suicide, that's somewhere that people, say that if somebody's saying it, they wouldn't. But actually, there are different statistics for that. That's a cry for help. If a loved one is saying it, or if you are feeling like that, that's the time to reach out to a qualified mental health professional. Because like we have pneumonia, we don't try and solve it ourselves. We go to the doctor when we know a cough which hasn't gone away after 3-4 days. So if somebody is saying this, please seek help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for throwing light on this, Pragati. My next speaker is Amrita Dutt. She is a student of sociology and currently working as a marketing and communications professional in one of India's leading financial organizations. She has keen interest in societal issues and concepts and tries to be as involved as possible. So over to you, Amrita.
Thank you very much for such a lovely introduction, and congratulations on holding such a meaningful symposium and a conversation, because it is very important to have conversations about these sort of things. I would just try to take notes from all the other speakers who have spoken, and all of them have actually talked about certain things that trigger the concept of suicide. Shunandan talked about isolation. Men go through this sort of mental isolation very easily. It's like a prolonged sense of not belonging, of not being able to be integrated with the community. And it is the fault of the community, the family, the friends, that we want men to react or act in a certain way. This absence can give rise to meaninglessness, melancholy, and also depression. Something that we can also see in a woman in the 21st century. Just imagine a room full of women who are professionals, and you have one woman who has chosen to be without any profession. If we keep on talking about profession, about how important it is, and we do not include the other person in the conversation, and we do not understand the other person's thought process, that person starts to feel that she doesn't have a goal or an ambition and feels like an outcast. Similarly, a man also thinks that way, that I cannot show my emotions to people. The person might go through a lot, but since the society thinks mard ko dard nahi hota, that's why the person wants to keep it to himself till the point the person decides to die by suicide. Something opposite to that is basically when a person is overwhelmed by a community's goal or a belief, where the individual goal or the interest is not taken into consideration. I'll just try to give you a very small example over here. 9/11 happened, and the hijackers who died in the aeroplane that crashed in the World Trade Center are basically an ideal example of that. You are dictated by a goal, which is dictated by the society, and that is so strong that you have decided not to reason, not to rhyme, but go ahead with it. That is another reason that can be the trigger point for people to give their lives for a goal so easily. Taking some notes from Devipriya, I would like to talk about another reason, which is more of an economic reason, anomic division of labor, as we call it. It happens when a person or a group of people think that they are deprived, they are marginalized, financially, they are so drained that they cannot live up to the lifestyle of other people. If for example, one dies because one is buried under a financial loan or has suffered excessive financial loss, and he or she cannot reach out to anyone to seek help, and decides, this is it, I cannot go beyond. A person who is stricken by cancer in a lower rung of the society will always think that this entire concept of getting medical help is a luxury for me. Better I die so that I do not put that financial burden on my family. So these are some of the reasons why a person or people decide to take their life. Another very common reason is when when you are excessively regulated by laws and mandates, and your future is dictated by that. You do not have any individual future, you do not have any individual thought process, and it is just the society and the norm and the mandates, they are dictating your life. One example of that, thankfully we do not have that anymore, and in America the law was abolished by a very wise person, but slaves used to die in the cells because they used to find their lives meaningless, because whatever they would think about their lives will not happen, because they would be as a captive in a cell, and their lives and their daily routine will be dictated by the master's command or the regime. And we all know the kind of heinous crimes that have been perpetrated in the name of slaves and it's God's will. These are all the laws and these are all the rules, rather, and the reasons why a person dies by suicide. I think last year only we decriminalized the word committing suicide to dying by suicide, because if you go through all the reasons that Devipriya has cited, that Shunandan has cited, that Pragati has cited, we'll realize that society plays a pivotal role in making a person so marginalized, so alone, that the person decides to die. So what should we do about it? The first and the foremost thing that we should do is start having conversations. That's the best way. That's the best way to deal with it. It's important for a person to come out, not to think that I'll be judged, and to have a meaningful conversation. And most importantly, to identify that core group, who will be there for you, who will listen without judging you, who will not say, hey, you're wrong, who will give that time to realize why is that person reacting this way. And this sense of confidence, this sense of fearlessness of being able to speak cannot come at the age of 30, 40, 50. It has to be instilled from a very, very young age. Hence, parents, grandparents, uncle, aunties, whoever is the support system should have this sort of, or I should say, promote this sort of environment in the house or immediate, your ecosystem, where the person can speak out and say, I could not do this. Am I less? I cannot think this way. Am I wrong? Or is it okay for me to think this way? Even if it's not, the person should have that independence of freedom to speak without being judged. And that is, I think, the first and the foremost thing that one should do. There are times when one has to take medical help, and that should also be normalized. It should be mainstreamed so that, tomorrow we do not have to think about one person and say, hey, you know what? That person used to be there in my life and she or he was a good friend, but now I don't have that person because she could not reach out to me or he could not reach out to me. Yeah. Over to you, Devlina.
Thank you so much, Amrita, for sharing your insight. So my last speaker is Sanchita Dasgupta. She's a clinical psychologist, and we have been comrades in this journey for the past 18 years. I know Sanchita since 2005, and she has been working relentlessly, silently, and has made major interventions. Her interaction with parents, children, and their feedback has been so positive. A lot of people have benefited from therapy with her. So today I want Sanchita to talk about how a parent can help a teenager or a young adult when it comes to suicide ideation. So over to you, Sanchita.
Thank you, Devlina, and thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. It's been a pleasure on my part to be, associated with Cornash since long. Thank you so much. I have been hearing to Sunanda and Amrita, Devipriya, Pragati. What I do realize that Amrita has been very rightly said that this need to talk about that I am going through a problem or I need help does not come quite late in age. It has to be instilled from the very beginning. So here I would say parents or the loved ones of a child play a very important role, because when a child grows up, the child sees their parents as the most important figure in his or her life, and they completely trust the parent and they completely go by what parents teach them, the values, the beliefs, everything. So there then, if parents are always sending in the message that no matter what, we are there by your side. No matter what problems you go through in your life, We are there by your side to support you non-judgmentally, and we will love you the same no matter what you do in life. That itself can act like a very strong foundation in a child's life. Life is never, free of problems, crises. In every juncture of life, we go through lots of crises, problems, failures. And if a child knows from the very beginning, it's okay to be not to be okay, that gives an immense strength in him to fight. And if the child is unable to fight alone, might reach out to parents, right? And when finding parents supportive, loving, caring, he again, can bounce back. With all said and done, still we get to hear a lot of suicide cases, and suicide cases are on the rise by the day in spite of so much of mental awareness being promoted. I have gone through a lot of articles and researches and seen that most of those who have attempted suicide and have survived, they have said that they didn't actually want to die. It's just that they simply wanted to come out of their then tormenting circumstances. They felt so overwhelmed. They felt that impulse was so overpowering that they simply couldn't control themselves. But here, I would like to say that this overpowering impulse does not last forever. So if at that moment we can indulge that person in a conversation, or otherwise also if the person has very strong needs, to end their life, if we can involve them in conversation and help them talk out of it, we have seen that there has been other options that they can work on. They can work on their problems and be out of it. Now, there is a myth going on that should we talk to a person who is contemplating suicide, should we ask them what their suicidal thoughts are, what are they thinking about it? I would say yes, definitely. Because when someone is in crisis and, and they feel alone in their tormenting emotions, it's basically, that when they find someone who is asking them about what is it that's actually going on in your life, I'm there for you, we can just sit and talk about it. Is it that you are planning to end your life? That thing might actually be like a, opening for all the pent up emotion that the person has been holding on to. So here, with indulging or with, bringing in the child or the person in conversation regarding their suicidal thoughts can actually give them a chance to express all the turmoils that they're going through. And that can actually make them feel relieved. As parents, I would say that parents need to be in lookout for any signs or symptoms which seem very unusual than what the child's behavior pattern is, usual behavior pattern. It can be there's drastic change in their sleep pattern, drastic change in their appetite pattern, eating habits. It can be drastic change in their temperament, in their mood. A parent needs to be in lookout for that. Maybe the child does not want the parent to come closer or get engaged in any kind of conversation at that time. But the parent can always send in the message verbally or non-verbally, that no matter what, I am there by your side. What come may, I'm there for you and I'll be there for you forever. This is one thing. Secondly is, we can also, the parent rather, can also tell the child that, look, I am really feeling concerned about you lately because I don't see your usual self. I'm seeing that something is maybe disturbing you. I am there for you, and you can come and share with me anything that you want to. We would together work towards it, and we would try to come out with a solution. Never ever feel that your mom would judge you. Never ever feel that my love for you would go down a little bit. No matter whatever mistake you do in your life, you would be still my loving child as you have been all through. So maybe sending in these kind of messages and just maybe hugging the child, sharing the warmth, the bond, which the child maybe has been missing now because he's grown up and there has been some kind of a distance come in, can give the child that little hope or that little faith that maybe there is someone for me. Secondly, if a parent finds that they are unable to approach the child at all, or the child is not approaching the parent at all, the parent themselves can have a talk with an expert, a mental health professional, and seek help from them. Ask for some guidelines as to how the parent can help the child. And thirdly, the parent here needs to be patient and strong in this time of crisis, because the parent cannot, here somewhere start doubting their parenting style. Because more than their parenting style, what is needed is actually to help the child out of the crisis that the child is going through. One more thing I would like to add here is, as I have said, that there can be a very unusual change in the behavior pattern. Now, this unusual change in the behavior pattern can be such where this child or the person starts showing a complete, sense of peace, as if all his or her responsibilities are done, all his duties are complete, and now he or she is free and ready to leave the world. So this kind of peace and a kind of happiness, a different kind of a happiness showing, is also a sign to be noticed. Along with this, lastly, I would like to say that be any kind of crisis, be any kind of failure, be any kind of problem, it's not that it cannot be dealt with. There are always other options. There is always help. And this message just goes out to everybody, people from every strata of life, every gender, all human beings, that we need to know and understand that there is help out there and life is beautiful and there is no problem, or we have immense abilities within us and we can always work through any crisis, any problem that we go through in life. Thank you, Devlina. I just had to say this much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sanjita. I think all those who will be watching this video, especially the parents, will get a lot of answers today. something that I think all of us go through on a regular basis is parents being unsure about how to talk about the topic. They are so scared that whether I should even ask a direct question or not. I think you have sorted a lot of confusion here. So
Over to you now, Devlina. I think
Yeah.
this has just been a wonderful panel and everybody has spoken really, really well. So I'll just introduce Devlina, who needs no introduction. She's the director of Cornash, and she is someone who's really qualified in the different kinds of counseling. Her specialty is couples counseling, and she's done her MRes in clinical psychology and family therapy. So over to you, Devlina. What can couples do to prevent suicide, and what are the signs to watch out for?
Yeah, okay. So in my regular day-to-day work life, I see a lot of individuals and couples who are facing relationship issues. And a lot of times people seek help because their partner or their spouse is suicidal. Now, what do you do when it comes to this? A lot has been discussed. There can be similar patterns. I'm not going into the details of it, but today I want to bring to your attention one particular thing, which is something that we need to be a little mindful of. That is substance abuse. Now, there is substance use, there is substance misuse, and there is substance abuse. Alcohol, weed, all kinds of other drugs, prescribed drugs, to all kinds of things. There is a social acceptability part of it. And to a certain limit, I guess it is all right. But when a person tips off, or when a person is tipping off, when your partner or your spouse is tipping off, or is he or she tipping off on a regular basis, is something that one needs to be a little more aware of. Substance abuse is becoming more and more socially acceptable. More and more people are having blackouts. They don't remember what they did the evening before. They look forward to weekends like as if, like, their life and death depends on it. And all they think is which brand of alcohol they're going to drink on that particular weekend, or who will be an enjoyable company and who will not. And if by chance those certain set of friends don't turn up, they are so frustrated that they start drinking alone. But there has to be drinking, there has to be doping, there has to be, when this has to be business happens, there is no other form of enjoyment other than with the substance. So in this couple dynamics, I've seen very often what starts spiraling down is from this point of one person suffering from some sort of substance addiction. So if anyone feels that my partner or my spouse has substance abuse issues, it is not entirely correct to wait for the partner or spouse to seek help. You, the partner or the other spouse, can also seek help. You will know how to handle yourself better and the situation better. It does not always mean quitting. When you quit a situation, you carry a part of the situation or the dysfunctionality with you. So it's best to seek help when required. There are a lot of things we don't know and we easily seek help. So when it comes to our partner relationship also, when something like this, there are telltale signs, it's best to seek help. So with this, we will wrap up today's live with a quick word from each one of you quickly. So one sentence, one message that you want to leave your audience with. We start with Sanchita, you.
Okay, to be very precise, Devlina, life is actually very beautiful, and we have immense ability already within us. We just need to tap it, make use of it. If needed, seek help and enjoy life and its beauty.
Thank you. Devi Priya.
So we have seen a lot of, I have in person seen a lot of suicide cases very closely. I have lost actually a couple of my childhood friends through suicide. My only thing is that I want to say here is, if there is a situation you are hesitant to get a professional help, first start by talking to people just around you. Don't wait.
Nandan.
I think, first of all, another round of thank you for this session. And it was really enlightening to hear everybody's thoughts. But I think the key takeaway from my perspective is, and now I'll kind of speak beyond any kind of gender barrier here, is that for people who might find somebody who might be showing signs of poor mental health or declining mental health, seek out, lend that hand of help, support, create the safe space. And for people who are going through a tough time, take that help.
Amrita.
First of all, it's a beautiful conversation that we had today. To those who feel weak and who are suffering, I would say don't be in denial. Identify and accept the problem. And that's the first way to deal with it. And to those who can see that the other one is in problem, please don't wait for that person to come up to you. It might be too late. Reach out to the person and say, hey, you know what? I'm there for you.
Pragati.
Death is the ultimate reality, but do we really need to take our own lives? Celebrity deaths like Robin Williams or Kate Spade, they show us, till we don't cultivate an attitude of gratitude, or find that one little thing that makes us feel life is beautiful, then, we tip the scales into a road which is usually just downhill and leads us into a state of despair. So to prevent suicide, I think taking care of your mind on a daily basis and journaling about gratitude practices is a small way, like brushing daily. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to conclude by saying that mental health practices need daily effort, like brushing our teeth. I always say this. We can't say that today my teeth is clean because I brushed yesterday. So like that, please understand the importance of daily mental health care. And also the ones who feel that they are in a situation where they can help others. A lot of us are so anxious or overwhelmed by situation that more than listening, we want to intervene and give our advice. And somebody who's going through a difficult time does not want to hear another person lecturing. So please, let's cultivate that ear to listen rather than shoot out advices. Thank you so much for being such patient listeners. So we will keep coming back and let's talk more on mental health. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.